Hi there, welcome to a new series where we're going to look at what's tough but true from some of the things that Jesus said in the Bible. And I want to start with one that is really challenging to all of us. It's a command that Jesus gives, and he tells us just what it is that we have to do to be a follower and a disciple of his. Let me just read it from Luke's Gospel. And he says these words: "If anyone would come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross daily and follow me. For whoever wants to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake will save it." So Jesus is talking to people and telling them that if you want to follow him, you have to take up the cross daily. Now, we know what the cross is, and it's a symbol of victory for us as Christians, because we know that Jesus overcame the cross. But they would be surrounded by and looking and know, just the way that Romans would deal with their criminals, that they would take up the cross, that they would be put upon the cross and sentenced to death against the things of the flesh every single day. That's the reality of being a Christian, and that's the way that Jesus tells us how it is. There's this misconception sometimes where we just think that if we just accept Jesus for who he is and what he says, then everything is going to come up roses. But it doesn't work like that. And we should never expect it to be like that, because he tells us that we must take up our cross daily. That means we wake every morning knowing just how fleshy we are, how the battle of the sin that entangles us comes. We know just how difficult it is when all these temptations come in and all these battles and feelings and emotions come. And it's so easy sometimes just to give in to those and to just carry on and have a pity party. But when Jesus says we must take up our cross daily, I believe that he means that we must see those fleshy desires, those battles, those difficulties that we'll face, and we put them to death because we have a new life. Now, what does that really mean? The fact that we put these things to death, it means that if temptation comes, we ignore it, we battle it, we say no. We put to death those sinful desires and choose to follow him. Who knows what your temptation is? Maybe it's food, sex, power, whatever vices that come and attack us. It's an easy way for the enemy to get at us by using this human nature that we have to try and take us off that path that Jesus wants us to walk. But isn't it a wonderful thing that we don't ignore it, we don't repress these emotions, we don't just try and hide away from them, we don't minimalize them and just do a little bit. We're called to put them to death, to put ourselves upon that cross daily, to die to self, and then re-raised to a new life in him. That for me is daily surrendering. It's like a criminal that knows what they've done. Eventually they have to face that punishment upon the cross. I wonder if we're really willing, when we follow Jesus, to take up our cross daily, to suffer for him, but also to put to death those sinful and fleshy desires that we have. We're in a season in this country where it is difficult to manage our own emotions, our own circumstances, and the temptations that come in, the desires, the difficulties, the the fleshiness that wants to come and attack us is there for all to see. In reality, for many people, there's no escape at this time. But even in this most difficult of seasons, we don't run away from these things. We don't hide it in busyness. We choose to put to death those fleshy, sinful desires. Take up our cross daily and still choose to follow him. For he is the one who is worth it. In that passage still, it's so tough. It says, whoever wants to live must die to self. And if you die to self, then you'll live. The world doesn't need much of me, any of me, really. It needs Jesus. So I must take on those fleshy desires, get rid of them, identify them, and then choose to surrender to him. It's tough, because we're so used to just minimalising or just getting a little bit better. Something, I don't sin that much, or just reducing the amount of things and thinking that there's this like classification of sin. If we just do a little bit, it don't matter because we're getting better. We weren't as bad as we were. But that tough, true thing that Jesus says is to crucify ourselves, take up our cross daily, die to self, and be raised to a new life in him. That's tough, but because it's in the Gospels, it's true, and we must heed it. Now, at the risk of avoiding literalism, we're not physically called to die, but we lay ourselves upon the altar and say, everything I have I give to you. I want none of Simon Cooper, but I want all of you, Jesus. I offer all my sin, all my brokenness, all my fleshy desires, and I choose to sacrifice them and give them, put them on the altar so that I can live. We die to self, and then we can follow Jesus, because that's what he says. It's tough, but it's definitely true.